So basically, my sister had my old phone because she had my old desk from college. She just took it because it was easier for her to move than for me to move cross state lines with it. And so my old phone was in the drawer. This is like my old phone. So this was my Samsung Galaxy S3.
You know what I was going to say? I was going to say a Nexus.
No, this was before Nexus.
Oh, before
that's
Nexus.
How fucking old this.
My goodness.
Yeah, that's how fucking old this was. So this was after I had a Droid. like back whenever they called them Droids. And then I moved to Galaxy S3. This is also whenever I got my own phone plan and switched to T-Mobile on my own, because that deal was so fucking cheap on T-Mobile.
Was it the $30 a month for unlimited data?
Yeah, it was like unlimited data. You only had 100 call minutes.
Yeah,
but it was also unlimited text.
And for people like us, it was perfect.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not talking on the phone. Like it was great.
Now, I ran into an issue when I did college journalism and I had to make phone calls for interviews.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't see that on the horizon, but that did cause an issue for me. But otherwise, it was a great plan. It was like a secret one, too. It was online only. You had to get the secret code from someone to access it or whatever. It was just very, it was kept under wraps.
Yeah, you had to like activate the SIM card that you got online.
Yeah.
And then you needed a phone with it. So I did have to buy that phone like out of pocket. I didn't have any like prepaid deals on that phone. But anyway, so that was this phone. And basically after that, like I did go move to Nexus and I had I basically started trading in my phones to get new ones after that, pretty much. So for whatever reason, I kept this phone. And I'm not sure why. I think I might have kept it as a backup and then just forgot about it in this desk drawer. And so I'm like, oh, does this thing even fucking turn on? This is a 12-year-old phone. This is from 2012. It's got the removable battery because that's what phones used to have. It has a SD card slot. It's light as hell because it's all plastic.
Yeah. What's the screen size on that? Because they used to have smaller screen sizes.
Oh boy. I'm gonna guess because this was actually quite large for the time.
Probably like 5 point something.
I'm gonna guess and say like 5.3 inches maybe.
Mm-hmm. Now the big phones are nearing 7, aren't they? And that's not
that has a folding phone.
I was gonna say that does not include folding phones.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, like maybe this will turn on, and so I had to find a micro USB cable because I haven't been using those, and I plug it in and turn it on. Sure enough, it does, and it's got a custom ROM on it because that was also back when I was doing that shit. So it wasn't enough that I was like in college doing whatever the hell I was doing. I also had the spare time to like just change operating systems on my only phone and means of communication like frequently.
Yeah.
Where it'd be okay if like just certain parts of the phone just would be non-functional maybe.
But it's all in the name of freedom.
Pretty much.
Over your device.
Yeah.
That was the Android thing.
Because this was back whenever the Samsung UI on top of Android was called TouchWiz.
Oh boy.
And it was not very good. The phone itself was really good. Like, it had the AMOLED display. It was full HD.
Any burn-in on that thing?
No burn-in. No burn-in. And yeah, so I had this custom ROM on it, and looking at it now, like, looks horrendous. Everything's so boxy. I think this was, I forget which version. I think it's Android 9 maybe.
I would have.
And that even seems too high.
Yeah, I would have guessed lower. Because what are we on now? 14 or 15?
We're about to be on 15. So that seems high. Maybe I'm incorrect. I think it's not Jelly Bean. What was Jelly Bean?
Oh, they don't have nicknames anymore, do they?
No, they stopped doing that. And it's kind of lame.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Android version history. Let's see.
Did you have a wallpaper on this phone?
I did. It was a screenshot of the Sandman.
Okay.
So just where my mind was at.
Yeah, that makes sense. That adds up.
You know what? I think it was Jelly Bean. Actually, it was Android 4.3 was probably what I was rocking.
That sounds right. July
2013. And the weirdest thing is, so I booted it up and I started getting notifications. I started getting text messages. And so there's no SIM card in this thing. It's not connected to any network. It doesn't even have Wi-Fi. I started getting messages. And so it was basically just sending me all the messages that were saved to the phone. And so these are messages from 2016.
Oh, that's incredible.
Which was like, I guess, whenever I stopped using the phone.
Was there anything from me?
I didn't see you. Because I think at the time we were primarily communicating on Facebook Messenger.
Yeah, okay.
So we weren't really texting.
True.
Yeah, it was very surreal. Because it was some people I've completely stopped talking to.
Right.
And actually haven't heard from since. And so I actually saw like their last message. So that was weird. And so I'm just like going through this like fucking time capsule of time that I don't even necessarily look at very fondly, but it's just like a time period I wasn't even like consciously forgetting or remembering. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just very weird and unexpected. And the fact that it's in this device, and then like every other phone since I've basically either sold or traded in. And then basically everything after this was just like all cloud-based anyway.
Yeah.
So like any of those messages, any of the photos I have, but like anything pre this and during this era is like stuck to this device. So, and then of course,
what are you going to do with it?
So that's what I was. So after I do my little reminiscing and getting misty eyed over basically nothing, I was like, so what can I do with this? So what can I do with this thing? And the answer is I could sell it for about $4, or I could flash a more up-to-date ROM on it.
Oh, I thought you were going to keep it as a time capsule and just keep all the messages and whatnot on there.
No. I got over that pretty quickly.
Okay, yeah, I could see.
Yeah. Because like I said, it was like this weird in-between time.
Well, 2016 was a weird year for many.
Yeah, especially for me. I was going through, let's see, which breakdown was this? It's hard to keep track. I was going through a nervous breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I don't have attachment to this, but I'm also not like, I don't know, upset by it. It's just sort of like, oh yeah, this was weird.
Well, because there's been enough separation where it's almost just a curiosity thing at this point.
Right. It's like in a video game where you pick up like an audio log, you know?
Yeah.
Or just like somebody's text like, that they couldn't fit into the game. And so it's just here in a corner.
Although that usually shows like it conveys their last moments before they die horribly, depending on the video game.
Well, I guess only if you're playing a Bethesda game, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then I was like, are there still ROMs? Do people still flash ROMs? Like, what's the most up-to-date ROM
what are
I
the
could
kids
flash
up
on
to
this
these
fucking
days?
thing? Yeah, because I'm like, I haven't thought about flashing a ROM on my Android phone since this phone.
I think that term has a totally new meaning.
Flashing a ROM?
Yeah, I'd be careful with that. No, I have no.
Yeah, is it like a drug thing? I don't even know. So yeah, because I was like, oh yeah, what's Cyanogen mod up to? And they don't exist.
Oh no.
Yeah, so like the one that's like the new thing is I already forget. Oh, Lineage OS. So they sort of came out of the Cyanogen mod thing, and it's basically just stock Android.
I like the name.
Yeah, and it's just stock Android, and you can just either choose to install Google applications or not, and that's kind of it. But since this phone's so old, they don't like officially support it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the newest version I could try to install is I think Android 7.
Can't you just like turn the phone into like a remote of some sort?
So that's what I was also trying to figure out. I was like, can this thing just like play music? Because it has an audio jack.
Yeah, that's another extinct feature.
Yeah, so then I think what I did was I realized Lineage didn't work. And so then I found on an old forum a crusty ass ROM that was like, oh yeah, this is the latest version that'll work on this. And so I figured out how to flash that very quickly. Because believe it or not, like I remembered how to unlock, the bootloader was already unlocked. And I remembered how to reboot into it. And so I basically just had to connect this to my PC and drag the zip over, install from zip. And I was like, oh, this is coming back to me. I'm flashing a ROM. Holy shit. It's like I'm 19 again. Jesus God.
No, I gotta say, the stuff that you're describing doing right now, given the context that you know about with me, I would like implode. I would like physically just die if I tried to do any of this. Yeah, well, get this. So then I flash it or whatever, and then it takes forever to boot up after I flash it, and then I'm like, okay, well, cool. I got this weird ass custom operating system that does have the Google apps because I had to flash that separately. The first package of Google Apps didn't work. It's like I forgot that I did this, and I have to remember that I did all this, actually.
The first set of Google apps didn't work because I think some of the apps were too new. So I had to go to another package of Google apps. That set worked. Then I'm like, okay, well, it has to update the actual Google Play Store services and all that shit. That took like 25 minutes. Then I had to sign into my Google account. I was like, okay, fine. Yeah, that did it. Cool. Then I was like, okay, well, I use Apple Music on my Android. I'm like, I have the sinking suspicion that this is not going to work just because this is an ancient ass phone. I was like, I bet you the newest version that Apple supports is like 10.
Right.
Or, the oldest version, whichever. Turns out it's like 8. So that's a no-go. So I cannot just use it as a little music player.
That's a bummer.
Remote. Yeah. But also it was like slow as shit and was like overheating just trying to install Apple Music. So I think it's for the best. And as I'm picking it up right now, just like holding it in my hands, the sort of like rubberized plastic case that I've had on it since I've ever owned it is like falling apart. So I think it's for the best to just put it to bed. Oh, but here's the other thing. So this is what reminded me of this. So I've been using my computer since, and this was like probably a month and a half ago that I did this. I started getting weird ass Windows Defender alerts on my computer.
No.
And I'm like, okay, what's going on here?
You're living my nightmare.
It's normally Windows telling me that, oh, you turned off cloud protection. I'm like, yeah, because I don't want your shit to attach to your cloud. It's like, would you like to turn it back on? And I say no every time. So I thought it was just that. No, it turned out that, let me see if I can find it because I actually turned it back on. Core isolation has been turned off. And I'm like, okay, what the fuck does that mean? And yeah, it says memory integrity is off. Prevents attacks from inserting malicious code into high security processes. And I was like, oh, that seems kind of important to turn on.
Yeah.
Let me turn that on. And it's like, no, no, you can't, because there are driver configuration errors. See details. And then it lists some drivers that are like USB, and then USB. And then like, but their versions are slightly different. And I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do with these? And so then I go into my drivers. They're not listed in my drivers. So I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to do about this? So I left it alone for a couple days. I ran a scan. Nothing came up. I wasn't installing anything weird. And mind you, this is like in the last week. Okay. And I like this message hadn't popped up before. When it pops up again, I do some more Googling. Turns out it was a Samsung USB driver. It was because I plugged in this old ass phone to my newer computer.
Wow.
And it was giving a conflicting driver error to a regular ass USB driver and turned off a security protocol in Windows 11 that would not turn itself back on unless I uninstalled the Samsung Android boot device. Just bizarre.
Kind of wild that it had the ability to turn that feature off without you even knowing.
Yeah, I guess because it's a developer tool that I ran as administrator privileges, but even so, pretty bizarre.
Wait, what's a developer tool?
The Samsung Android debugging driver.
Okay. So you gave it extra privileges.
Yeah.
I see.
But even so, I didn't tell it could do that, and I don't think it did. I just think it was Windows freaking out.
Given my predisposition for internet paranoia, I'm like on the edge of my seat here.
Yeah,
it's
and
fascinating.
I mean that's it. So as soon as I uninstalled that, I gave it a quick reboot and then turned that memory integrity back on, and it's like it's fine. So
I would have thrown my computer out the window.
Yeah, but this was my desktop tower, so
just maybe open the window a bit more. I don't know.
Hey, what's up? It's the Dinner Road Show, episode 101. This is technically the first episode of season 4. What does that mean? Absolutely nothing. It means nothing. But yeah, haven't been able to record in a couple months. I genuinely don't know if what I say makes sense anymore, so we're just gonna roll with it. It's gonna be a good time. So I had a couple of things I wanted to talk about because I've just had a lot of time to think, and that's a lot of times not a good thing.
No, it's not for you or myself.
Yeah. So I want to hear your thoughts on this because I am curious. I kind of miss cable.
Yeah. I thought you were going to continue because you have a nice, a very concise thought here in the show notes that I read through earlier, and I think I agree with it pretty much entirely.
Yeah, because like I kept seeing this take, and before I was just sort of like that's like just dismissing it immediately because I was like, oh, that's crazy. Like, why would we want to get locked in? It was expensive. We're stuck to a schedule, and now we can just watch what we want whenever we want.
It's like,
and we can watch as much as we want whenever we want.
Yeah, the idea is like nostalgic and like rose-colored glasses, and you don't, you look back on it fonder than than it really was. But I think I agree with where you're going with this.
Yeah, like just the ability to be able to watch and read and play like whatever we want the minute we want to hasn't actually made things any better. And now we have like the streaming wars, and now we have even worse corporate consolidation than ever. And we also have like some of the most bland shit as possible coming out. Movie theaters are dead. Movies in general are almost dead, right? Like you get like 3 movies a year that are like the big ones, and then if one of those fails, then it's like it dooms the industry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good smaller shit, but like, you have to like hunt for it. And then whenever you do watch something and it like is not up to your standards, it just feels like you've just been like wasted this huge chunk of time that you've invested into it. It feels like a personal attack.
Yeah, that's a key point there, because you feel responsible for your own for the choice that you made and the time wasted.
Yeah. So like instead of just being like, oh, that wasn't very good, it's like the kids call it mid, and everybody else is just like, oh yeah, it's a piece of shit. Like nothing is just okay or not very good or whatever. Everything is the worst thing ever. It's like it like leads to this very odd tribalism where like there's no spectrum range of quality.
And there's also hardly any discourse anymore. Or maybe that's just because I'm not as online as I used to be. But I feel like when people were sitting down to watch something that was scheduled, like appointment television, Sunday night HBO, Sunday night AMC, what have you, it would lead to a lot more discussion because, people were watching the same thing.
Right.
But now it's just whatever recommendation the algorithm feeds you, whatever new show is out, you might not watch it right away. There's just a disconnect and everyone's doing their own thing.
Yeah, like even just culturally, like devoid of TV specifically, like there are just like very few moments where it feels like everybody is sort of on the same page with something. And I don't even mean opinion wise, like just even like sort of keyed into the same moment. It happens maybe like once or twice a year now.
Yeah. I'm thinking like this, an award show, or maybe
not even that. Like only if something happens at a award show, like the slap.
Like the slap, yeah.
Like this year it was the Kendrick Drake thing, right?
Yes.
Where all of a sudden it's like that was your appointment TV. It was like, what the fuck's going on there?
Although as someone who listens to both artists, I have not heard a single one of their diss tracks. So I don't know what that says about me in terms of the cultural discourse.
Okay. As someone that doesn't listen to either, I have heard all of their diss tracks.
That's very funny. Yeah. I just the whole thing just seems so gross to me. And I don't find it interesting. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
I did want to get your opinion on it, but I didn't want to like make it a topic because
I don't
just like the two whitest people alive talking about.
Well, there's that. Yes,
like,
they got to be self-aware in that way, but also I just don't have an opinion because I haven't heard it. I've heard some of the allegations that have been thrown both ways in the diss tracks. Like I know some of the content discussed, but I haven't actually listened to them. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Why have you kept up with all this? I'm surprised.
Because like I said, it was like everybody was glued to it.
Okay.
It even breached my, under a rock like circle, right? Because like before it really popped off, my brother was trying to explain it to me, and I was like, I can't follow like the words you're saying. This is like an alien language to me. Like I don't know any of these people. I don't know the music. I don't know it. So it's like I can't follow this. But he's like, no, it's like really good. It's like really dramatic. I'm like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
But then it was whenever, I guess it was the night that Kendrick dropped like 20 minutes after Drake dropped his, where it was like everybody was like online already talking about the one thing. It's like, oh shit. And so then I was there. I had my popcorn ready. It was Yeah.
I think for me, it's been more on the pop side. There's just been a lot of like either high profile albums or pop artists that have been known but have like broken through in a big way. Like, you know, artists that came out of like Coachella, you know, Chappell Roan, Sabrina Carpenter, just kind of paying attention to those like hits as they come out. I think I'm more in tune to that sort of thing, at least when it comes to like musical discussion. Obviously, there was a Taylor Swift album in April, which we have not recorded since that came out. An album that I enjoy, but I think a lot of people don't, and I think a lot of that has to do with Taylor Swift the person and a lot of the issues there nowadays. But
Really?
well,
You don't think she just kind of dropped the dud?
No.
I think she could kick a puppy and
Well, yes,
still have the same level of success.
I don't disagree with you there. She's pretty much invincible in that way.
Yeah.
I just think this is her most lyrically confessional album that she's done, to mixed results. But with that, it's like even harder now to enjoy the music without the constant knowing of the context behind it. Her personal life, her relationships, her transgressions, her persona, like everything. It's just so ingrained more deeply than it's ever been before. Because I think, you know, older Taylor Swift, it's really effective because of how like universally relatable the lyrics are, but as she's become more confessional and as her movements have been tracked and her you know, she's just, her popularity is like become out of control, and every day there's a new headline about something she's doing. It all just, I think, has been detrimental to her music, along with the climate and and
so would you say it's kind of like one of those like reality TV shows that is like built up this insane like sort of quote unquote lore for itself, where like you need to watch all the seasons in order to get whatever the hell is the latest drama thing going on?
Yeah,
it suddenly blows up on social media.
It's a good comparison if that show was also force fed to you and unavoidable, because I feel like I don't seek out Taylor Swift's personal life, but I know about it, and I genuinely think this album would have been received better if we didn't have the context of her personal life in it. Like there's a very good song on it that is very it comes across as tone deaf, because lyrically it's about how she's basically like playing the victim, and yeah, stuff like that, right? So it's really, you can't separate you just can't separate the two, even though the song may be well written and catchy and structured very well and all that. So yeah, I have not spent as much time with this album as I have all of hers in the past. Now another reason for that is the fact that it is 2 full hours long. Like the runtime is like 2 hours and like one minute, I think. So I'm not even exaggerating.
It's almost a Persona 3 podcast.
It is. She did the thing where she puts out the album at midnight, right, when albums come out, and then a few hours later she's like, oh, but it's a double album, and then she releases the second hour of it, which weirdly is stronger than the first. That's just, I don't know how that worked out, but
it's almost like she needs somebody to tell her to, you know, pare it down.
She needs an editor. Yeah, she needs to be reeled in artistically and in a lot of ways. But you know, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good album. It's disjointed as hell. I think there's like multiple producers on it. It's very tonally all over the place. A lot of people seem to think that the bulk of it is about Maddie Healy, which I don't. Again, like this gets into. I don't need to know that. I don't need to care to be thinking about that while I'm listening to this album. But also, that's just weird if it's true, because their relationship was like just like a blip on the radar. It was like a month long, and she's writing a whole album about him after a 6-year relationship ended. That's just strange to me. But again, this gets into the issue, right? Like you can't just take the music on its own. And boy, do I wish I could when it comes to Taylor Swift, because that's really the only way I can continue to earnestly enjoy her music.
See, I thought you were like cold turkey here.
No, it could never. I've just been listening to this artist since high school, right? So it's
really.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No, I thought this was a more recent thing.
It might have been freshman year of college. It was whenever Red came out. I think that's 2012, 2013. That was my real introduction. Then I pretty loyally listened to each album that she put out since then. It did ramp up for me during COVID because I really, really enjoyed her folk-ish album that came out in 2020. So I'm like, that just set me deeper into liking her music. But yeah, I've been into, I've been one of those people for a long time.
Okay. Let's see, if we had your phone from 2012, we could verify that.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. I was using an iPod then, I think, for music.
As a phone?
No, for music.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's the kind of shit I kind of miss, is like a focus-built device.
Oh, I would love it.
Yeah.
I would love it. I saw something about this recently, whether it was an article or whatever. It's just saying that you can't just sit and listen to music and have that be your sole focus, because it's tied to your phone, because the app is on your phone and you're going to get notifications. You're going to be tempted to look at something else.
Yeah, like when I'm playing music, I'm playing it from my computer, like through my sound system usually. And yeah, I have to be doing something else. It's like broken my brain that way.
In high school, I would use my parents' stereo system, put in a CD in the living room and when they weren't around, or sometimes when they were, and just sit and listen. After school, weekend morning, just sit and listen to a full album front to back with nothing else going on.
You sound pretentious when you say it, but like that's sort of the intention of like.
I really don't mean to, because I just
no. I'm not you specifically, the general you.
Okay.
Like the intention of like playing a vinyl record.
Yeah.
And like how that came back was like you're purposely placing this thing here with your physical body and playing it, and then you have to flip the side over and play the other half of the record, right? And then you have to take it off and put it back. All of that is like you are physically listening to this album, not just passively, clicking on the file or clicking on the link, whatever, and then going to do something else. To
try and sound less pretentious, just to give you an idea of what those CDs were, I remember there being a Shinedown album.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I was deeply...
I don't remember what it was called, right? But it had that white cover.
The white cover, yeah.
Yeah.
The white cover, for sure. I was...
the white album.
Yes, it's the white album. It's just classic. That actually might have been closer to middle school than it was high school, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
But one of them I do remember very distinctly was sitting down to listen to the follow-up to American Idiot. What was it, 21st Century Breakdown? Just really, I think it's a 2-discer. It's a double.
Yeah.
Just gave that my full attention. Was very moved by it at the time. I don't think it would hold up for me now. But
do you want to? I don't mean to put him on blast, but do you want to know what my brother's favorite Green Day record is?
Sure.
It's 21st Century Breakdown.
I don't see a problem with that, because he's at the age where that was big.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's genuinely like I haven't listened to it in a decade, but it's, at the time, I remember it being a very cool, ambitious, interesting album. And there was so much hype around it because it had been 8 years or so since their classic. I could see that. I could see it. I respect it, actually.
Yeah, because that just dates him and that record.
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, I guess for you and me, it's American Idiot, and then for him, given the time frame there, it would be that one naturally.
Yeah, but as a kid, I did listen to Green Day before that, but then it was American Idiot took over the world,
Yes.
So
yes.
Yeah. Oh man. I guess while we're in the music thing, do we want to talk about that Say Anything record?
I have not returned to it as much as I thought I would, but I would absolutely like to hear your thoughts on it.
Sure. I've listened to it twice.
Oh, that's about where I'm at.
Yeah, I've listened to it twice. The second listen was a little tougher than the first, I will say.
I also agree.
I had to skip the orgasm song.
Oh, did you?
The second time? Yeah. I was like, you know what? I don't want to listen to this.
Is it weird that I found, and this, if someone's listening and they have no idea what this is, that's just going to sound weird, but is it weird that I found the section about his wife to be kind of beautiful in a twisted way?
We might be talking about different songs.
Oh, maybe.
I'm talking about the one where he's just talking about how his wife's going to orgasm.
Oh, yeah, different song.
And that's the whole song.
True. That one's kind of fun, though.
No. And then he has Brian from Weatherbox just coming in talking about how Max's wife is gonna orgasm.
Well, yeah, that's
and I just feel deeply uncomfortable.
But I'm going off of
I shouldn't be here.
Right.
I've like walked in like to a room I shouldn't have been in.
But I'm going off of the assumption with Sherry, his wife, being also an artist and musician, and they've worked closely in the past. I'm assuming that she's
also on the song.
She's also on the song. She's probably heavily involved in the process. So with that context, I'm like, well, they're doing something here. I don't know what it is, but I guess it's fine.
Yeah, I just don't like it.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I just don't like it. Yeah, he just has a tendency on the record as a whole, and then of course one song in particular, to say the word "come" a lot.
He does. I think maybe that's the one I was thinking.
Yeah, no, throughout the entire album, he just says it a lot, and it's just kind of weird because it like just sounds like it's a fixation more than I guess like theme.
Yeah.
Like, it just kind of seems like just like fixation. And so I was just like so deeply fucking confused.
Yeah.
By a lot of it.
Well, that's what made the first listen especially so fascinating, because you're just like trying to take it all in. You're like, what is going on here?
Yeah, I unfortunately need to pull up a track listing because I can't remember the songs.
I know that
individually,
the two that made the most impression on me, or the best impression on me, because the "Come" songs probably are the most memorable for reasons. But this last two tracks on the album, the one with the spoken passage, which is I think the highlight of the whole album. I think it's very clever and effective. And then
I didn't know how to take it.
Well, I took it as genuine and sincere, and then him flipping it on its head in a way that he tends to be quite, self-aware and meta with how he writes music.
Yeah.
And this was just like a really cool like way of going about it. He like pulls the rug out from under you, because I thought the song, which is like the slowest moving, I don't know if you call it a ballad or whatever you want to call it, but a very emotional song. And then he goes on to deconstruct the whole thing and the process of writing it, and how it's like almost emotionally manipulative.
Yes. I think there's a lot of manipulation going on here, like whether emotionally or just for, again, to either pull the rug out from under you or like have 7 layers of irony here.
Mm-hmm.
Because the first track is Introduction to the Reunion record, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is mirroring Is a Real Boy, Introduction to the Record, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
And this whole song is about like, we're back. The chorus is like, let's be children again, because like we're all fucking old. You listened to these songs when we were kids. You might need Say Anything album right now, because I Need to Say Anything album right now is basically the theme of that song.
Which, boy, did that hit.
It hits, yeah. But then
the rest of the album
shits on that.
Absolutely. Right. Because it sets up something that it's not.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
And so I was like, well, what is the, that's why I sent it to you. I was like, I can't tell if he's like
shit posting, you said, I think.
Shit posting here. Yeah. It was like, is this album just one giant shit post? And I sent that to you before. I was like, I need to see something. I was like, has anybody actually reviewed this album? And I never look at album reviews. I don't give a shit about music criticism, really.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to see something. And so then I found this pre-release interview, The Aquarian.
You're saying, I wonder if Pitchfork reviewed this album.
They didn't when I looked, but he also has had a vendetta against Pitchfork since
know.
At least the self-titled.
I know.
So in this interview, he basically says that this is supposed to be a parody of a Say Anything album.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of songs that are supposed to be like, oh yeah, this is where we would have this part and this part and this part. And so I say that we're going to do those parts in the song. And so I do them. And then I'm like, yeah, but those are the parts that sound the best.
And it's weird to me because there are genuine moments of like sincerity throughout the album, and those are the only things that have stuck with me. I don't really care all that much about parody when it comes to this album and band and artist. I kind of look to the songwriting of Say Anything for a little more than that, right?
Yeah, it's doing himself and his previous work such a disservice.
Yes, absolutely.
To be like, oh yeah, this was all just a bunch of cum jokes, and I only talk about sex. It's like, when did that become your brand.
It might have been a misconception by people who either don't like or don't listen to the band or haven't throughout the years, but it's weird to have you yourself putting that idea front and center. Because I don't think he even believes that. Nor should he.
But then why make a whole album like that?
Why make a whole album like that? No less an album with the band name that you said you were retiring.
Right.
Or was it retiring or was that a hiatus? I don't remember. But
he was saying he was putting it to bed or whatever, extended hiatus. That's the other thing. Yeah, you put it to bed with an album that was supposed to tie up the quote unquote story of Is a Real Boy, putting that record away as well. And to me, it actually accomplished it. To me, Oliver was actually a return to that stylistic writing of Is a Real Boy.
I'll be honest, I barely listened to it. I think I would have to go back and check it out more. But
like, it was from a different perspective, but that same sort of energy and feel was there to Is a Real Boy, which is what a lot of people wanted. They kind of blew it off because he said that he invented this character now about it. And it's like, okay, yeah, whatever. That doesn't really matter. If you actually listen to it, it sounds the closest to Is a Real Boy that he ever got to.
That's interesting. I think I'm going to revisit that because the album that came out right before that left a bad taste for me because it was rough in a lot of ways.
Right. That's whenever he was going through his Kanye shit.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah.
I forget the name of that one, but
I don't think it is.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Because Hebrews came before that, and Hebrews was great.
Right.
And pretty much every album from Hebrews and before is very good.
Yeah. There's just been such a vocal subset of his fans that have never gotten past 2005.
Yeah. Well, there's a vocal subset of just people on the internet who just put him and his whole family down, in my opinion.
Well, yes.
Like,
and we had a whole episode.
We did. I don't want to rehash it.
Right, going through that.
It's just frustrating because, like, you know, they're messy people, but people talk about them like they're just like awful or like immoral or just can't raise their own children. It just goes way beyond what's reasonable to say about straight like people you do not know. Right. Anyway, we've been there, done that.
Yeah, it's just like. The songs and like the parts of the songs that he's pointing out to me are like the songs that like are the ones that I would want to listen to.
Yeah.
So like basically the singles.
Yeah.
Or at least the songs that they put out before the release of this record. Before I even knew that there was actually going to be a full album where they were just kind of like releasing songs.
What's with the weird family conflict that arises in certain parts of this album?
So I think it's real.
Okay. I feel like it has to be given some of the stuff that he says in this.
So here's just a part of like I'll quote him here from this same interview, this Aquarian interview. We were going through a thing where we had false CPS allegations. A lot of this record is about that. People tried to take my kids. To me, that was the worst thing that ever happened to me, and I've seen some fucking shit. So it's assumed that his brother-in-law is the one that called CPS.
He almost directly, I think he like directly says that in one of the songs.
Does he?
Yeah. He basically says his brother-in-law accused him of, well, you know, something horrendous.
Okay, I must have missed that.
Yeah.
There's a lot
going on.
There's
a lot going on, but that line did stand out for me because it's like shocking and it's
yeah. So it's been assumed that for a long time, just based off of how he sort of gave death threats. I don't know how to phrase that. He wrote a death threat into the first song that they released.
The lead single.
The lead single, and was also playing that live and saying it. So it was kind of assumed, but
see that's what's so weird. And I guess I will have to keep listening to this album more. I guess, but you have the self-parody, but then you have the very raw stuff, and you have moments of sincerity within the parody, I believe, that kind of break through. I keep going back to the line. I mean, I don't even want to repeat it myself, but it's one of the Come songs where he talks about his wife. Not the one you were talking about, but I think one before that, and it's like. It's just a weird thing to talk about on the podcast, but
is it the one where she's got a nice ass or whatever?
Okay, it's a repeated line where he says, "I'll always come for Sherry Dupree," right?
Oh yeah.
It's in a weird way kind of beautiful. Maybe that was just my mental state at the time.
The thing is, and that's a problem with a lot of the lines on this record, is that he's had the same sentiments stated much more eloquently.
Yes. Oh yeah, for sure.
Previously.
For sure.
Like, Cemetery is basically the same thing, except it's a beautiful song.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of talking directly about cum.
Well, maybe that was the approach this time.
I guess so, but it's like, I don't want to listen to the cum album.
Well, what do you think about the last two songs where he deconstructs his emotional one, and then he's like, well, we're going to follow this up in the only way that makes sense with an even longer song. It's like 8 minutes long. And that one I thought was good too.
Yeah, I thought it was good, but then it's like, there's like shit about doing it just to appease fans.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of always been on his mind. I think there's a lot of that in Hebrews, isn't there?
Right.
Like his intention behind the music and you know, who he's making it for.
But again, in Hebrews, it was like
better.
Yeah, it was like clever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was like winking and nodding. It's like, oh yeah, I'm still gonna do that shit. But this is now, like, on Hebrews, a record that doesn't even have guitar on it.
I know.
And like here, it's just like, this is the shit you want, isn't it? You pieces of shit.
Which I almost don't mind that, because it's like, well, fuck you. And it's like the album itself is so all over the place, in a way that he's probably just mentally been kind of all over the place with all the shit that's gone on. And it's just like in your face in a way, and like doesn't really give a fuck. But you almost, like you're saying, you almost wish it gave more of a fuck, like it was up to a standard that he had previously. But I don't know.
Is a Real Boy had, you goddamn kids best be gracious with the merch money you spend.
Yeah.
Like, there it was fucking direct and in front of you.
Yeah.
And obviously a joke.
Yeah.
Here it's like there's a bitterness attached to it.
Which does it kind of fit for like a comeback album? Like, I don't really want to be here, I'm just doing this again.
But it's like sort of naked, like to its core, whenever you are at least a tiny bit aware of his situation.
True. It's like the Taylor Swift problem.
In a way. And then you feel kind of gross listening to it.
Oh, like the Taylor Swift problem. Yeah.
At least I did, where I'm like, well, shit. This is like an epilogue that both sides really didn't want.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. It doesn't satisfy him as an artist, and it doesn't satisfy the listener.
Right.
Except in parts where it does, which I really genuinely think there's some cool stuff on this. But
the parts that I enjoyed are the parts that he's spiteful of.
Yeah, that's quite a thing to.
That's where my issue is.
It's
the
like
parts
how
that sound like Say Anything are the parts that he's like, here you go, you fucker. This is what you want to listen to. This is the same shit I've been churning out. Here you go.
It's like Grimes. It's like I just want to let that sit for a moment. No, with Grimes, she put out like a very pop heavy album rather, called Art Angels, and I think it's my favorite one of hers, and she like has disowned it since then.
Yeah.
And would like never go back to that. But here it's like him disowning the music in real time, like as he's making it. It's and like you said, his past catalog too is like he's kind of shitting on that in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So
and again, he's done this.
Yeah, he's done this before.
He made a sequel to admit it. Hebrews is basically so self-indulgent, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the shit he's always done.
Oh, well, Say Anything has always been self-indulgent.
Right. But there's such a clear difference here. So apparent to anybody that like has listened to the band before.
Yeah. And he almost wants to portray it as like he's losing his mind, but I don't think that's true. Like,
see, I was there for a little bit because I was like, this kind of sounds like just like schizophrenic fixation on certain topics, right?
I agree while you're listening to it.
Then I was like, there's too many people around him to just like let him release this as a full album, you know?
And he's too coherent in the second to last song when he breaks down exactly his intentions for writing that.
Right. And then I read this interview and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's fine. He's lucid. He's fine.
Well, I don't know if he's fine, but he's certainly lucid.
He knows what he's doing. He's fine.
He may not be fine, but he's certainly competent.
Right, that's what I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point. Like while you're listening to it for the first time, you're wondering. But then you hear him talk or whatnot, and it's like, oh, he's still Max Bemis.
Right.
So where does that leave this album? I have no idea.
I don't know.
I do want to keep listening to it, and I do want to check out All Over again, see where that takes me.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, for me, the way I listen to music is like I listen to full albums.
Oh, same. Yeah.
I don't ever skip tracks. It's just not something I do. because I've never really felt the need to. I unfortunately have to skip track 4.
Mm-hmm.
It is unlistenable to me. I don't want to hear about, your wife orgasming. Like, cool, good for her,
Yeah.
Glad that she's, whatever. But like, I'm good. I'm good.
No, she does backing vocals on that song, or is it a different one? I forget.
Yeah, no, she does. Well, she's probably on another one.
Yeah,
but,
she's all over it, but yeah.
Yeah. But no, she's definitely on that one as well.
Who's he talking to in the second to last track? Is it her, or is it like a friend?
I think he's talking to his daughter.
Wait, really?
Right?
Huh.
I think he says as much in the a few days later, I sat down while my daughter was asleep. I improvised Woman's Song. I just sat there, recorded the guitar track, and made it up about her sitting in front of her as I slept. She's so used to hearing me sleep and maybe cry that she didn't wake up the whole time. It's not like she was sitting there watching me do this. She was fully asleep, but there.
Oh, he just wrote that on the spot.
It was the most vicarious version of the acoustic ballad that I could do. You couldn't get more sincere, and also a parody of Dashboard Confessional. My friends, people I admire. You picture an emo guy on stage with an acoustic guitar, and you don't think he's going to start actually crying, thinking about his mom, and saying things that have nothing to do with it.
Well, see, now I like it even more. That was already the strongest track for me, and now I like it even more.
Yeah, so he says there that he's parodying emo.
And that's an effective form of parody, because there is sincerity to it, and it breaks down the sort of formula that those other bands were using.
Yeah.
And he's like basically saying, I he did this on the spot, so it's not emotionally manipulative. It's just emotional, but it sort of reflects the more manipulative songs from other artists, right?
Yeah, but like, here's where he loses me. So this is basically the next paragraph.
Oh no.
I wanted it to feel like most people do when they cry. It's a messy affair rather than one tear falling down. I wanted it to feel like a real emotional breakdown, because it was. That links back to everything on the record. By making a parody of a Say Anything record, it was the only reason I was able to do this in a healthy way. I needed to have this kind of experience. It was both a parody and completely serious. Everything I say on the record is kind of literal for the first time. Usually I'd be on a Say Anything record going, I'm the devil, I just took a shit. People are like, wow, I get that metaphor. He really feels like the devil and maybe metaphorically took a shit on the floor. But in the situation I was, it's as literal and metaphorical as a Say Anything record can get. What?
Well, it makes, the last bit there about the devil, I didn't understand. But before that, it makes sense, right? Because the best part about that song is that it reels you in, you get swept up in it, and then you get his full breakdown of it. And it is that contrast between the sincerity of just sitting down and making that on the spot and letting the emotions come in, but then also having the awareness to be like how it relates to the emo genre and how you sort of structured the song to make it that effective and all that stuff. But it's kind of like you were saying, like he's just being completely literal in a lot of ways, and it doesn't really necessarily work. Like throughout the rest of the album, yeah. Yeah,
he said, like I said, like the metaphors of the previous records, there was a poetry to them. Right?
Yeah, like what he just said in that interview, it sounds like he's pulling from a bitter fan or critic's perspective on his metaphors.
Yeah.
And not what they actually were in reality. Like he's discounting himself as a songwriter.
Right. Yeah, and it's like,
which is weird.
Okay, yeah. It's like, yeah, you had sex stuff. Like,
yeah.
Obviously.
Called her on the phone.
Right. That whole record, the whole next double album, basically.
Yep.
Like, but it wasn't so, I mean, Suck Me Till I'm Sore is pretty obvious, but like, other than that.
Yeah.
But again, that was like funny.
Yeah.
Because of the context of that song. Anyway, yeah, like it's like trying to have it both ways.
It is.
And I think it's also just the way the album's structured. Like with that first song, technically setting it up and then not doing it. And then how is anybody supposed to know that this second to last song is supposed to be a parody of the genre as a whole when it just sounds like a guy crying?
Well, that's the twist of it, though.
But how is anybody supposed to get that unless they read this interview? I don't think that comes across.
Well, it's not the interview; it's the actual second half of the track itself, where it's spoken word and he's going through it. I thought that was really cool. He's like, oh, don't you feel a little silly about just getting emotional just there? But also, not really, because I was too. But also, I know what I'm doing. So he is trying to have it both ways. And I think in that instance, it works, or at least it did for me on the first, listen. But I don't know. I mean, this could be so much worse, I feel, which is not like the most glowing recommendation, but like, making a comeback out. Like it could have been just like an effortless cash in. It could have been, it could have coincided with the anniversary tour of his first album. He could have just like been like trying to actually appease those shitty fans who disregard his whole catalog aside from the first album. But I don't know, he was doing something with this. I know it didn't really work in a lot of ways, but at least he was like taking it, like doing the Say Anything thing from the Say Anything thing from a different angle. I don't know. Maybe. That's me giving it the benefit.
But hey, I Vibrator is apparently a song about female empowerment and misogyny. So.
Well, do the two not go hand in hand?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I actually just said that without really.
I don't know.
That's so a weird thing to say. Also, I don't know if I'm going to talk about meeting a Witcher.
Do you want to do that then?
Maybe.
Okay.
Just wanted to bring up the experience of going to North Jersey Pride this past weekend, which was really good. It was a lot of people and a lot of vendors, but like the atmosphere was like very laid back at the same time. It was just like very, very pleasant to walk around and all that. I did come across a vendor who made these handcrafted little like foresty pieces that caught my eye. And I was like thinking, oh, that would look pretty cool in the apartment, just sitting somewhere. And the prices were like really good too. It was like this nice like forest piece, very detailed. You could sit it on like a table, and it was like $35. I'm like, you can't beat that. Handcrafted.
Is this like a diorama kind of thing, or
you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna text you a photo of it.
Okay.
Just so that you have a reference point, because I it's hard to describe on a podcast. But let me go do that.
Okay. Yeah. I was just saying, there's like moss bits and mushrooms and.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it looks better in person. The picture, maybe it was the lighting. It does look better in person. But it's cool, right? I'm like, oh, I'll buy this little art piece, support the independent artists.
Did you have to carry this around after you bought it?
I would have, but I decided to leave it with them because this was pretty much when we first arrived. This is one of the first few vendors that I. So they set it aside for me, and I picked it up on the way out, nice. Which was really good. So it turns out the person who made this is a witch by trade. And this piece is actually like a, I guess like a potential home or like sanctuary or sort of drawing place for Fae.
Okay.
Yeah, and so she proceeded to go through certain like guidelines and advice on how to approach having this piece and dealing with the Fae. Like there's certain rules, like you can't tell them your name.
You can't feed them after midnight.
That one I wasn't aware of. I just know that if
I'm joking, that's Gremlins.
Well, there you go. Part of where I'm getting at is I'm taking this seriously.
Okay, all right.
Yes, all right. It's fine. You can make jokes. I'm just so yeah. You if you give them something and they enjoy like shiny objects like jewelry, they enjoy like wine and sweet things and stuff. But if you offer something, you cannot take it back.
Okay.
So that's important. Yeah, there's just various things. And basically this person, her name's Peggy. She's a witch.
Peggy the witch.
Yeah, she says that my life is going to change. Hopefully for the better. But you know, she was asking me if I was already familiar with this stuff and the Fae, and I was like, well, you know, I was very honest. I was like, it just the piece caught my attention visually is how I put it. And then she says that she thinks that the Fae drew me to them. Right. With this, you know, at this point, I'd already pretty much given the cash, so I was already
you're already.
I was already in.
It's too late.
But you know what? I decided in that moment, I bought this thing. I'm gonna embrace it. I'm gonna go along with the concept here and stay true to it because you know, for one, I don't want to end up cursed. Like that would not be great. And you know, it could provide a nice little, you know, it could provide some meaning for me.
A lot of times people get a fish tank, you know?
It's you know. You have to. There's a lot to fish tanks. I know what you mean.
The fish can hear your name, you know?
Oh, you also can't ever tell them thank you because they will not, fairies will not be indebted to you in any way. You have to remain on level terms with them, which I appreciate. I appreciate. They really do not live in a capitalist structure. They remove themselves from that. In fact, they live in a different, like a parallel dimension, I believe, which is what like the offerings and this sanctuary, like this is all to, you know, potentially attract them to, you know, to becoming a part of your life.
Did she tell you that they're naturally pranksters?
Yes. So she said
Okay.
if I lose like a piece of jewelry for a week, to have an idea of why.
Yeah, you know all those chains that you wear.
All my chains.
Yeah.
Although my partner is bringing some jewelry to offer this weekend to the Fae. She's been very supportive of my new endeavor, which, you know, I appreciate. Could it be seen as the next phase in me losing my mind? I could see how it could be viewed that way, but I'm just choosing it. This was, you know, this was unintentional. I thought it was just an art piece, which it, you know, it is in a way, but it has more significance than that. And so I'm going to respect it, and I'm gonna really see where it goes.
And it's a great way to get free fudge cookies.
Is Elmer a fairy?
EL Fudge?
I thought his name was Elmer.
No, that's a different guy. The EL Fudge cookies, the Elf Fudge.
Who's Elmer?
He's the guy that's fighting Bugs Bunny with the gun.
Elmer Fudd?
Yeah, Fudd.
Not Fudge.
Not Fudge. Elmer Fudge is when he shits his pants.
Yeah, I didn't know Mr. Fudge was a fairy.
He's not.
Then what's the
I'm talking about the fudge. I'm talking about the fudge cookies from the elves with the like Nabisco. Never mind.
No, I know that. I didn't know I didn't know EL Fudge was a fairy.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's cool. I eat those.
See?
Maybe, well, would it be weird if I gave one as an offering?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. I won't do that. I'm going to stick to the tried and true shiny things and sweet things.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, I might have updates on the podcast if I encounter any fae or any other sort of interesting incidents happen in relation to my new piece.
Yeah, you know, because they live in the dreamland, right?
I knew it was some sort of parallel or alternate dimension. I didn't know it was called the Dreamland.
Yeah, there's Queen Titania, King Oberon, right?
What is this now?
Those are their only authority.
I feel like I'm being set up for a bit here.
No.
Like the EL Fudge. I'm suspicious now after the cookies.
Nope. No more fudge. I'm being completely serious.
Because when we tried to look up advice about fairies, a lot of it on Google went right to Magic the Gathering, and I felt like that wasn't quite what I was looking for.
No, see, there's Titania and Oberon. Oh. That's the fairies' power couple.
I swear one of them is from Game of Thrones. And got like
that's Oberyn.
Oh, so close.
Yeah, but it's basically actually Titania that's in charge.
Okay, and Titania is a fairy herself.
Yeah. In some readings, they're without gender.
Oh, I like that.
But more often than not, it's king and queen. Sometimes Titania and Oberon are just a title that they sort of bestow to the head fairies, and then it's sort of like passed on, and so then the next fairy that assumes that becomes the next Titania.
There's many iterations of it.
Yeah.
Oh, so see, you have the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Do you? Have you ever considered owning a fairy sanctuary?
No.
Okay.
I didn't realize that was something you could purchase. I assumed that they had to be contacted in the wild, I guess.
Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff online, people like go to the forest and things like that. But this is sort of bringing the forest into your home in a way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because there are the fairy rings.
Right. Which those are pretty cool.
Yeah.
What's the explanation there?
They're just rings of mushrooms. I don't know.
But is it like that's people don't make those. It's the fairies that show themselves through them.
They're like portals. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. A lot of this is Midsummer Night's Dream.
Oh. Mm-hmm. That you're talking about.
Yeah, but it's also like mythological.
Oh, it is. Okay. So you're not just pulling from
No. In fact, I have a well, it's not Magic the Gathering, but I do have a card of Titania over on my shelf.
See, I was going to say, I figured with your history of tarot that I could come to the podcast and share the story. Mm-hmm. You know, I feel like
I also have a pixie statue, but that's a little different.
What's that from? Persona?
SMT.
Oh,
yeah.
I was close.
I mean, both of them are, but...
Well, I mean, you know, I'm open-minded. Mm-hmm. I'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I'll be very curious to see if you put down a ring and
it goes missing.
yeah.
Well, my roommate was weighing the the risk of doing that prank versus the idea of just being like cursed for life.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Fascinating. Yeah, you've been on quite the little journey for a couple months, it seems.
Well, what do you mean?
You were on TV.
Oh, that's true.
You're communicating with the fairies.
At Pride.
Yeah.
Oh, and I met libertarians at Pride as well.
Sure.
Which that was not nearly as successful as the witch encounter.
Yeah.
It's a tough crowd. Like, you know, there have to be better places for the libertarians to go.
I guess it's kind of like whenever, what's that awful, horrific church that goes to pick at the funerals, you know?
Oh.
You're not welcome, but like, you're there. Nobody wants to see you.
Like
there you are.
You're going to the most progressive gathering of people.
Yeah.
Really, like that you could find.
Yeah.
It's just tough, and they didn't look happy, and it was probably a rough day.
Probably
for them.
not.
Yeah.
No, it's like, yeah, that's like a hellscape for them. Yeah.
Yeah. They were like, "Do you want to look at our petition?" And they're like, "Well, just hear us out. It's just to get on the ballot."
Oh.
But even then, I was like, "No, thank you." I took their little pamphlet and moved on.
Yeah.
I guess framing it. What?
I'm just like, why would anybody there ever consider a libertarian candidate?
Yeah, I mean, the way they were framing it, it's like, oh, well, you know, we have the right to be on the ballot, which...
Yeah, okay, but you do need the signatures. Like,
yeah.
This is not the crowd.
No, it's not. That's what I'm saying.
Unless they went with their extreme, like, socially liberal, fiscally conservative bullshit.
Oh, boy.
But, like...
Well, I didn't get that far.
That's also like a crock of shit?
Yeah, it is.
So... So, like, if they tried that angle, maybe they can get somebody to listen to them for a couple minutes. But, like, yeah.
Yeah, they just looked defeated. They just looked defeated. And it was pretty... The day was young. So, there's a lot of time left.
Oh, man.
But yeah, I did make it on Spanish national television, primetime news. I visited a Real Madrid themed bar for their run in the Champions League, which they won, by the way. But I was there for the semifinals, which was packed on a Wednesday at 3 p.m. I cannot imagine the finals on a Saturday afternoon. Higher stakes game on a weekend. But hey, it was a lot of fun. I felt like a fraud the entire time I was there. I just, it's not my number one soccer team that I root for. So I felt like a little bit of a fake fan, like a bandwagon. But and then you just end up with your face on the primetime news. I mean, it wasn't just me; it was everyone, and I happened to be there. And you would never know unless you paused it and looked for me. But
yeah, towards the center of the.
I was pretty center in the shot. Now my issue with that news clip, as much as I appreciate the publicity, I think it helps the podcast.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Who's that one white guy that's in 240p? At the bar. Oh, he must have a podcast.
I think they had their priorities a little out of whack because they showed us first. They were cutting around to different parts of the world that had like viewing parties for the game and like showing the celebrations. Now they started out with us in New York City and went to a few other places, and then they like had these fans in Gaza. They had fans in Gaza cheering for Real Madrid. I feel like that should have been the highlight instead of my dumb face. But hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, unless they were just, I don't know, saving the best for last. I don't know.
They weren't even last. Yeah. They were like in the middle of the montage. I'm like, whoa, that's really cool that they're showing up and doing that. And it's,
maybe it would just, maybe it's just easier to transition with like, oh, look, this is New York. And then before they like Gaza,
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't know. Otherwise, it doesn't.
Showing a moment of happiness in Gaza, I think that's worthy of the top frame. But anyway, that was something. I would have never known if the person I was with hadn't sent me the clip from that bar's Instagram post showing that they were on the national news.
Right. Man.
And now Real Madrid is set to get Mbappe.
Oh, okay.
So they're already champions of Europe, champions of Spain as well, and set to get the best player in the world. So on top of all that, so that'll be something to watch. That's for sure.
The rich get richer.
It's true. It's very true. I'm hoping for a soundbite next time. I want to be interviewed.
There you go. Yeah. That's where you promote the podcast.
Yes. I'm sure there's so much
t-shirts, I think.
So much overlap between the two audiences.
Oh, for sure. Soccer fans definitely want to hear about the new Say Anything album.
Yeah.
Oh God, where are my buttons?
That's beautiful cinema.
Thank you, David. So I watched this a while ago. Late Night with the Devil.
Yes. One of the breakout horror films of the year.
Yeah, this was getting a lot of buzz, but the buzz that I didn't see. So there was like an AI thing going on.
Yeah.
I didn't hear about any of that, and I usually was on the AI, beat before the AI beat me.
It's true.
And so they apparently had used AI in some of the interstitials in the scene transitions.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I guess I should set it up if nobody knows the movie. So this is Late Night with the Devil. It's about a fictional late night TV show. Think closer to like Johnny Carson's show. I think they fictionally set it up that he's competing with Johnny Carson.
Yeah, competing network, same time slot.
Yeah. And it's set up to be found footage of this Halloween broadcast of the show. And it's during opening narration sort of sets up this late night host's circumstances and the circumstances of the show, It's kind of sort of pitched as he's like if Conan O'Brien was like in the 60s with like an experimental kind of format to late night where he was like a little more edgy, and will like try out skits and, very Conan-esque.
It's experimental, but also progressively as the ratings become an issue, it gets more and more like desperate.
Right. Yeah. He starts pushing the envelope and getting more, not risque, but like, I guess tasteless.
Yeah.
I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so on this Halloween broadcast, he brings out a medium and then a girl that is suffering from either does the psychiatrist say demonic possession or just that has multiple personalities or something? I forget.
I think it's framed to be possession.
Okay, yeah. So this little girl that's possessed by a demon, ghost, whatever.
Because you have the whole way through. You have this guy who is the skeptic. He's the
yes.
He's there
this guy that is
to question everything that's happening, all the supernatural.
He's modeled after the there's this magician that then became like a skeptic that would basically do the exact same thing this character does, and I'm blanking on the name of the guy, but there was a real magician that sort of in the later portion of his career became a guy that would like debunk mediums and sort of fortune tellers and other people that would go on programs like that and sort of like fool audiences, because he was like, this isn't even like it's not like practical magic or whatever, or like sleight of hand. This is just like fraud. So I forget the guy's name though, but he was very famous for doing this. So that character is modeled after that guy. So they're pulling in from a lot of like reality or whatever, and like this is supposed to be like found footage. But anyway, so like there's like cuts in between where they're like going to commercial or whatever, and there's like very quick interstitial cuts. So apparently they had used AI on some of these.
Yeah.
For me personally, and if listen to any other episode of the show, and you'll know my feelings about AI. I didn't even notice these interstitials, let alone could tell if they had used AI or not. Like I wrote here, like, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Is it not a big deal then? Like, I don't know.
My idea is, or my perspective is, it's not a big deal, because I think AI is harmful most when it's taking away from artists, whether that's in job opportunities or creatively or whatever. This is a low budget indie horror movie with a very specific and unique vision, and 99% of that vision is done, true, like by people. And they used AI in these quick little overlays or sequences consequences, whatever you call them, that really have no impact on the creative aspects of the movie. It's just something to assist with the visual aesthetic. But it's a movie with a strict budget, and it's not that it was taking away from some artists. It's just it helped them work within a budget, I can only assume, and it helped accomplish the vision of the film in a very, very minimal way. Like the fact that you don't notice it is, I think, a good thing. Like this is not ideal, right? Ideally, all the art in a movie would be made by an artist. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not endorsing the AI usage. I'm not saying go them for doing it, but I think it's forgivable. I don't think it's a reason to boycott the movie like I saw some people were doing online, which is kind of absurd in my opinion. It just helps accomplish a vision within a budget and an indie film structure that maybe they otherwise couldn't. Like it's a very creative movie. Like it's one of the more interesting possession movies I think that has been made in a very long time. Like in a genre that's difficult to stand out from the crowd, this movie did that for me. And I applaud it for that. And I think it's a shame that this sort of headline kind of took over in a way, like around the movie's release. Like this was so closely associated with the film's release, this whole AI controversy, that isn't really, it just doesn't warrant the backlash in my opinion.
Yeah. Like maybe you can refresh my memory if you remember, like the cuts in between, were they mostly like text based?
Yeah, yes, they were. There's like no like
they weren't even,
it's not
like,
real even art
attached.
No, I mean, I'm not knowledgeable on exactly how the AI factored in, but you're correct. It's text based. It's like it's a quick transition. There is no real art other than the overall visual aesthetic that they're keeping consistent.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine that the AI helped in keeping that aesthetic consistent for these small little slices of time. But again, I think the main thing here is that I don't think this took away from an artist. I think it just helped them make the movie in a very small way.
Right. And to your point about the budget, because I saw this floating around after I'd watched it. And I noticed this whenever I played the movie. It takes like a really long time for the movie to get going because there are so many production companies involved and like financing companies that all had like a tiny little piece involved.
It's almost comical how long that goes on for. I remember that now.
Yeah, it's almost like a parody.
It is.
Like, they all have their little splash screen graphic of who they are before the movie gets going. And normally, a movie you watch, there's maybe a few of those, right? I couldn't even count how many there were here.
We could be in the double digits.
They all have to go through that. Yeah, double digits. Yeah, it really felt like it. It was comical. And so, yeah, to your point, they really had to get budget for wherever they could, was what the lead actor and producer was saying. I forget his name. It starts with a D, right?
It does. And I wish I knew it myself because he's so good in this role. And he's someone who has been a supporting actor in many high profile things. I think even Dune, if I have that correctly. But like, I think this is his first true lead role, or one of his
David
first.
Dastmalchian.
There you go. And he just like really captured the energy of a host of late night TV from that time, I feel.
He had a fantastic performance. Yeah, and he's like a guy that you've seen like he's a very visible like character actor in a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Oh, he's from Allentown. Oh, okay.
Oh, there you go.
Huh. Yeah, so he was the lead actor and a producer on the movie. The premise is such a unique one, and that was like my main draw, was like, okay, this is such a different setup and a different literal staging for a horror movie. But I have such issue with the framing of it.
Do you?
And this is so tough with found footage kind of shit. Because it's like, in order to get any kind of context at all, like you either need to go like Blair Witch, where we don't know shit, right? We're literally just watching the footage. And I still think Blair Witch is probably the top of like found footage kind of thing. Or you go what they do here with heavy narration at the beginning to set up character motivations, character backgrounds, what the next hour is basically going to be, instead of sort of just like letting it play out and like kind of inferring a lot of stuff through dialogue. And I don't know if like the narration was like necessary completely. Like it's like this whole like TV war thing, and then we have to set up his wife who is off screen, you know, like all of this.
I agree.
And then the movie gets going. Then, and this is maybe minor, like you could probably look over this, but like it really stuck with me. the fact that this is supposed to be found footage of the taping of the show.
Oh,
right?
you see the behind the scenes?
We see the behind the scenes. And it's like, well, which camera is this now?
Yeah.
This doesn't quite make sense.
I know.
And so it's like, it might have been more difficult, but like if we only had the mic pickups from those scenes.
Oh, I like that. Is that necessarily going to hold an audience in the same way? Maybe not.
Maybe not, but like you still, like you don't cut to black, but you still just have like the main cameras rolling, right?
I like that. Yeah.
You know, like maybe that would have been more difficult to shoot. I don't know, because otherwise then it turns into like, now we're watching The Office.
Yeah.
Like, it turns into like a documentary.
It's not found footage anymore.
Right. Because it sets it up like this is the tape that survived, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what cameras are following them now? So that really stuck with me, and it was hard to get that out of my head.
I agree with you on the framing of that, especially the second part of that with the behind the scenes. Every time they cut to a commercial break, you're still in there where you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And I think it is such a pretty intuitive solution, which is just hearing the mics or having the one camera, the still camera or something.
Right.
Because it's like during a break, but it's still rolling. It's still getting the footage.
Right.
So that does take you out of it. I was able to overlook that because I did enjoy what was happening during the scenes, but I totally get that. The intro narration was over explaining for sure. It felt like handholdy. It felt like it didn't trust the audience to get on board with what was happening on its own. And then in addition to that, there's this added element, which is not my own observation. It's something I listened to on, which one was it? Either The Big Picture or The Watch, one of the Ringer shows that are usually really insightful. But they basically talked about this movie within the context of modern horror as a whole, in that there's always some additional trauma that needs to be added, or at least the writers and filmmakers feel that needs to be added to the movie. I think you have a very effective movie without the traumatic backstory of the host.
Right.
I don't think it really adds anything to this. If you need motivation, I think the failing ratings are more than enough. I think that's a really interesting idea of just keep upping the ante and doing what you can to stay on air. Like that works. But if they added a whole other traumatic element on top of that, or in addition to it, and it feels like too much. And then you have the over-explaining narrative in the beginning, like you're saying, and it just
here's the other thing about the narration.
Excuse me.
It doesn't return at the end.
No.
So who the hell is telling us this? Who is setting this up?
I know.
Like, is this actually a documentary? And then like, what is the framing here? It's like this is the found footage that survived, you know. But then it's like, okay, well then, do we have some conclusions at the end? Because who are you?
Yeah,
you know,
I do, and I agree with you on all of this, but I also want to emphasize that the actual footage of this episode playing out is so fully realized and clever. And nails just the aesthetic and the atmosphere and the acting and the everything about it. And the fact that the concept at its core is so unique, and I didn't expect to be, in this day and age, to have a possession movie be so unique in a way that this one is, and just be doing its own thing and have its own vision like this that sets itself apart. I think all of that still makes it very, very worthwhile, despite the issues with framing and narration and all that.
Yeah, like it realizes that's set so well, but also from that perspective, like whenever it is on camera, it's like he's the host, he's doing the monologue, he's making jokes at the sidekick, because you know he's got to have the sidekick, he's got the band,
the audience,
the whole thing, you know, like he's doing crowd work with the medium, you know, like all that stuff. Like it feels like this was a real show.
And like the in-between commercial breaks, you do get some valuable context from that. Like with the one, was it the medium who got into like an accident after leaving the set or something? Yeah.
No, I'm not saying cut those out.
No, but frame them differently.
The way that they're presented.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Present them differently. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's like that. If you use those to replace the narration, and that's how you get character motivation. That's how you get character relationship.
For sure.
Like the conflict between him and the skeptic, him and his co-host, that's all in those in-between segments. right?
Right, because there's insidious stuff happening on the show, but then there's even more happening behind the scenes. But now I have in my head what you presented, which is mics are still on,
Yeah.
cameras rolling, probably just a still shot because no one's working the camera.
Yeah.
That's just so good. Like, it's just so much more effective.
Like, we still see, like, whenever they're setting up the next scene, like, he's with the interview with the girl and the psychiatrist.
Yeah.
But, like, it's not in frame. We just see them, like, off
Right,
to the side.
because their mics are
the
still
mics are
on.
hot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Oh, that's a shame. But
It's been bugging me since I saw it.
Yeah. Oh, and knowing you, that definitely is something that you would latch onto. And I don't mean that in a good way. I mean that in a good way because it's true with this movie. But that said, I mean, I still think it's very worthwhile.
Yeah, and I'll always shout this out. You know, nice brisk, like hour 20, hour and a half.
Yeah.
Like, get in, get out.
Absolutely. Another Shudder movie that was, I believe, 90 minutes, but felt like 3 hours was Stop Motion. I don't know if you've heard about this one, but the premise is it's sort of set up like this woman who takes over the stop motion film project from her mother who can't do it anymore. And she gets like sucked into this like situation where they're like coming to life and like haunting her. That just sounds really cool. And like a big chunk of the movie is dealing with actual stop motion, which is fun. But boy, that movie was just a failed attempt at quote unquote elevated horror.
Okay, yeah.
It was doing the thing where it's like, this can't just be fun and creepy and gory and weird. It has to have like significance at every turn for the character, and it has to like hit you over the head with that.
Yeah. This is about trauma. This is about grief.
Exactly. And
this is about family.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the big difference between, well, there's a lot of differences between that and Late Night, but Late Night has those things tacked onto it, but it never loses its personality and its fun.
Right.
You know? But yeah, Stop Motion was another Shudder release recently that just came to mind, and I was disappointed.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to differentiate yourself, but also like you got producers saying like, oh, these have to be emotive, you know? You know, like, yeah. I think we're going to call it there. We got a ton of stuff that we want to talk about from this backlog of notes. So thank you so much for listening. We really do appreciate it. We'll be back much sooner than 2 months.
Oh, I hope so.
Now that my head is screwed on forwards instead of backwards. What do I got here? Check out Did It All for the Moogle.
Do you have?
Podcast.
Oh, I don't want to step over your promo here. Keep going. Sorry.
It's a podcast that may have permanently damaged my brain. Please allow it to damage yours.
Oh, that's great.
And that's the part where I wink at the camera. Yeah. So the Persona 3 podcast episode is out. Just play it. Don't even look at the length. Just play the episode. How about that? How about that?
Let it be.
Look at it.
Let it be a surprise. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Check that out. I'll have more episodes of that soon as well. Now that I'm back on the grind. It's good for even if you haven't played the game. It's as spoiler free as possible.
Oh, that's really impressive.
Hard on that. Yeah.
I don't know how you pulled that off, but
yeah. I don't know.
Now, I was wondering if you wanted to tease anything that you have in the next one here, since there is this big page of show notes with a lot coming up.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so next up, we're going to probably talk about some book stuff. I got some book stuff I want to talk about. I wrote a review. It's up on the site if you want to get a preview of what we might talk about, because it's a very interesting independently published book. But yeah. Check out the review. Check out what we're going to say about it next week. And then I keep buying e-ink devices. And so we'll talk about that next time. But also some more movies, because I've been sickly and I've just been watching a lot of movies. So I want to talk about Godzilla.
Which one?
Godzilla.
All of them.
We can talk about a bunch of them, to be honest with you.
I have.
We can talk about the good ones. We can talk about the shitty ones.
Okay, because you're more knowledgeable than I am. I'm
no expert, but yeah.
I've only seen -1, and it knocked my socks off. I think it's incredible. So I might do Shin Godzilla.
Yeah.
And so then I'll at least have 2 movies to talk about.
Okay.
But yeah, Godzilla -1, I could gush about that for days. So.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that next time. And also Civil War. So I got some feelings, so we'll talk about that.
Oh, very good.
So that'll be next time. Thank you for listening. Really appreciate it. Check out the website. Check out the YouTube. All that bullshit. See you in the next one.